Okay, Celeste. So we're recording this for Freedom's Way, and so that I can learn more about Beaver Brook than I already know just from hiking. So why don't we start with why was Beaver Brook founded and how was it founded?
It was founded 54 years ago, 1964, by two cousins who had spent time in Hollis, weren't necessarily originally from here, but had spent time here in summers. One of them became a farmer in town, the other came up for his summers, and he was named Hollis Nichols, so we think he might have been named after the town, actually. But they, together, one was sort of the financier and the other was the farmer conservationist. They together had this idea, I guess they could see it coming in the 60s, that this megalopolis would form between, New York, Boston, and on up. Today, you could say maybe Portland, it goes all the way up, but they could sort of see the development coming even then. They knew that farming was on the decline at that time, and that farms were going to turn into houses and subdivisions. And so to preserve a chunk of nature, they formed this nonprofit with a nice mission, because even today the mission is really, they must have spent a lot of time thinking about it, because it really still works today, to teach people about the interrelationships in the natural world. So that means our interrelationship with everything out there. So it allows you even today to be talking about solar and climate change, which is something they were probably not thinking about at all. But what is our impact and footprint on the natural world, and then demonstrate natural resource stewardship. So that's our mission, and that's sort of all of our educational and management efforts out there have to, conform to that. And so they were forward thinking and coming up with this plan, and they started with a really small chunk of land, 12 acres, and today we're over 2,200 acres. It's been added on to all the time. We actually just added another 20-something acres this fall. So
that's a lot. I did not realize it was that big. That is huge.
Yeah, and for this area, it's nothing when you're talking about out west. It's just like a drop in the bucket. But for southern New Hampshire, it's quite a bit.
That is very neat. Now you guys do some education and school programs here, correct?
We do a lot of educational programs here. It's sort of like, I think of it as like three prongs. So one is the school programs that you see taking place today. We do programs for preschool through, we've even had college kids here, preschool through college. I would say 98% of our educational programs take place here using outdoor classroom. We have some indoor classrooms too, because in the winter you can't stay out for hours and hours. But and we also do outreach programs too. We can take programs into schools, libraries, other organizations. So we do that as well. But the classes take place year round. We do winter programs on tracking and wildlife and snowshoeing and survival skills, things like that, even in the winter. Right now we have a lot of Native Americans of the woodlands classes going on, because kids like to study that, and the pilgrims in the fall. But what they're learning is how people for thousands of years lived off the land here as hunter-gatherers, and what are all those plants that they were using for tools and food, and where did they get water, and how did they build a structure, and how did they make clothing out of local animal skin. So they learn all about the flora and fauna in that class. So it's a really fun class. In the spring we might have maple sugaring classes. So that's the school piece. Then we have summer camps that run for 7 or 8 weeks of the summer. They're week-long programs for kids, and then we have we call it public programming. Anybody, member of the public can come. Like tomorrow we're having winter tree identification class, and it's anybody can come. That one happens to be free. Sometimes there are fees to, take the classes for supplies and teachers.
Yeah,
and all
definitely.
That. But we have a lot of family-centered programs and adult ed stuff as well. So those are sort of the three educational areas that we primarily spend our time on.
Excellent. Now you have beautiful trails here, some of the better maintained trails I've hiked, so I'm assuming you must have a staff that heads out and
Huge staff, huge.
that keeps everything clean.
No, it's like 2 guys.
Okay.
Well, 2 natural resource people, but we have a volunteer trail volunteer manager, so to speak. So he communicates with, I would say, approximately 25 volunteers. They all have adopted a trail, or been assigned a trail.
Yeah.
We have 35 miles of trail, so it is a lot to keep up with. But they sort of pledge to walk their trail once a month. They don't have to even do any work. Just report back. Is there a major tree down? Is there a sign missing? Is it flooded from beavers? What's going on in your trail? They report in on that, or anytime. The public also reports in too to us. Oh, there's a tree down blocking a bridge or something. And our crew are the ones who are sanctioned to use chainsaws.
Oh yeah.
To get it out, or tractors and heavy equipment. So thanks to all those volunteers, that is a large piece of why the trails are so good. The trails are well mapped. We do have good maps, and they have recently all been reblazed, so they have,
Oh, nice, yeah.
And the signage, at major intersections. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Well, a lot of what we do, to be honest, we do have a really small staff here, so we probably, I don't know what the number is right this second, but at some points we've had 200 volunteers active with the organization in a given year. So it might be 175 right now, but we wouldn't be able to do a lot of what you see without all these great volunteers. They're happy. People are happy when they're in nature, number one, and people like to volunteer here because they're in a really nice place when they're here. And
right.
The more I learn about brain chemistry and how nature affects our, mental health and physical health, I can see why so many people want to volunteer here. That's why I like working here, because
yeah, it's definitely. I know for me, being outside, and I didn't get to do as much hiking. This summer was so rainy, and this fall was so rainy.
Yeah, it's been tough.
And
we're so thankful today not to be wearing rain gear. That's why I couldn't meet till now. We have a morning hiking group on Fridays and Mondays. And we've been in rain gear a lot the last month. So we're like, woo, get out here without rain on.
Yeah, and thank goodness for cleaner trails, because I've been to some trails where if you go too early in the spring,
my gosh,
the fallen leaves and all that, and then all slimy from melting, and it can be very slippery. So when I was thinking about this interview, I was like, I have to know who keeps these trails so nice. So, and now I see that there's, it talked about on the website memberships.
Yep. The place is open 365 days a year, so anybody can come here. The trails are open. The office isn't open all those days, but the trails and the gardens in the summer, spring, and fall are open, free to the public. There are gardens that you have to pay admission to that probably might not be as good as these gardens, but these are just open for the public to enjoy. But we do have a thing we used to call it supporters, and then it was too confusing. We call it memberships, and it doesn't mean you have to be a member to come here. But there are some little perks. People, as members, they get discounts on any programs they sign up for, or camps. You get invited to a few things, or you can participate in a few things free during the year as a member. So people just like to be members, like to support.
Yeah, that's what I expected. Usually in a place like this, a member is a nice way to say that. Pitching in.
Nobody's locked out, of coming here. Yeah. And our trails are accessed by, we have at least, 15 major trailheads that you can get into the property, so it's not like we're gated. Oh, members. Some places
yeah, 'cause
you
I
have
know
to
the
pay
book-
to get in.
The book that I learned about it from had us start up the street.
Yeah, Route 130 probably, right?
Yeah, right where you come around the corner.
Oh, okay.
That's where it had us go.
Oh, okay.
And then we came out down here,
Mm-hmm.
and we were like, oh, well, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
This is off-street park. We felt like we were parking on, like, oh, it's,
Yeah, what is this little
Right.
place?
like it's not, doesn't seem like a parking space.
That's
But I
nice.
know I passed by a couple of trailheads on
Yep.
130, so
Yep.
yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Now, you said you do some stuff with colleges, or
Yeah, we've been, well, one college actually, is Daniel Webster College in Nashville, used to do projects with us, but they got bought out. Rivier College, Rivier University now in Nashville, we've had a long-standing relationship with them, the biology department. They do an Earth Day race, and they raise money and they donate it to Beaver Brook. We have some kids in an ecology class doing some data collection, like beaver census work as a study, how to learn how to do field research, I guess is really what they're learning in this class. So yeah, we've had some nice long-standing things. We've offered, water quality programs for them here, and some of their professors have, joined different land trust committees that are affiliated with us. So years ago, we were part of, we had this little group, it sort of dissolved, called the Nashville River Environmental Ed, what do we call it? It was like a little loose consortium we formed we were one of the few on this side of the state line. Most of the folks were in Mass, so it was Nashville River Watershed, Fitchburg State, there was a few Oxbow National Wildlife Refuge.
Mm-hmm.
There were a bunch of people, Fruitlands Museum. Mostly it was Mass folks. And then I'm trying to think who else. And we used to do some things together, and partner on some events, just kind of helping each other out because we were all small organizations for the most part. And then I don't know why it dissolved, but it's fun too. And with Freedom's Way too, having partners. By joining them, you meet all these other cool people that have similar interests or want to, teach something together with you, or you can teach for each other.
yeah, I was thinking about that because I know that we at Fitchburg State, which is really only a half hour away.
Yeah.
I know that there are a lot of, like, when I think of biology students or people like that. This is a resource that's right up the street.
Yeah.
That a lot of them might not even know about.
I know. And the state line, as invisible as it is when you're driving over it, it's such a barrier.
Yeah.
Our land is touching the state line, like if we just walk that way, we'll be in Pepperell in a few minutes. But in terms of even schools coming up from Pepperell town, these nearby schools, I think they have to fill out special forms if they're going out of state on a field trip, and you have to give much longer notice. And it's like a big production. I'm like, oh, for goodness sakes, you're in the next town. Of course you should be coming here. We're like we're your local nature center.
Definitely.
So yeah, that's why it was nice being in that little group, because we tried to make that state line disappear from our, ecosystem that we were all concerned with.
It's so many.
But it is great. I love making partnerships with other groups because, it's like synergy. 1 + 1 = 3. You're doing so much more by just joining with Fitchburg State or Rivier or Nashville River Watershed.
And it gets the word out, and
an audience. Yeah,
you can help them because you've got people that are coming that are regular here. They've got people that are regular there, and they can learn about both locations, and then go to both locations.
Yeah, and like we have our mailing list and they have theirs, but like when we start sharing, like, hey, we're doing something there or we're doing something here, so many more people find out. It's really beneficial.
Yeah, it can be interesting with funding and all that too. The more, especially where you are dealing with a lot of volunteers helping to keep everything
maintained,
maintained and all that. Then the more people that can learn about it. Mm-hmm. Even just like the programs you said, these kids are dealing with. About Native American, cultures and all that, and living off the land and all that. That's a class that I, would imagine would appeal to many people. When you look at some of the quote-unquote reality shows on TV. It's like, oh, no, here, instead of watching
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Why don't you go see what a real Indian cucumber root looks like in your backyard?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
there's stuff to eat right outside the window.
Yeah, like, come out here,
Yeah, no, people, they'll know all these, like, weird logos they've seen on TV, but they won't actually know, like, what the plant is outside their bedroom window or something. Because, like, it's right there. It's real, you know?
That's funny.
That's kind of scary. And that has made that whole thing of, the shift in electronic media over the last 20 to 30 years has made what we do here seem so much more important, at least to me. It's like, oh yeah, summer camp's fun, I would have thought 30 years ago, but it's like, oh my God, it's like critical. We have to get these kids unplugged because they're spending 11 hours a day in front of digital media. It's like, quick, put that thing down and get outside. Or touch a frog.
When I take the kids, they take their friends, and my daughters are 16 and 18 right now, but we've been hiking for a few years. Well, I got them back into the hiking a few years ago. They'd bring their friends and be like, okay, guys, snap a photo if you want in front of that sign. And then we're putting the cell phones away. And they're like, what do you mean put them away? I mean, shut them off and put them away. And they twitch for a few minutes, but then once you get going, then they're like, oh, this is a blast. Look at this over here. And then, of course, we get over to that wigwam, and then they're like, can we take out our phones and just snap some photos with this? And it's like, yeah, okay.
Okay, quick.
Real quick. And then put them back away. Like,
yeah, but you get the teenagers to do that. Good for you.
And then we usually have a camera with us, with us anyway. So it's like, no. We use the camera to be a better picture. We can zoom better.
Good for you.
And we'll do that. But I'll tell you what, it works because at any given time, I'll have I can have 6 or 8 kids with me, and I get very little trouble with that. Like, put it away. We don't need it right now. Let's just have some off time.
Let's look at what we're walking through. Yeah.
Yeah, and it works well.
Which is why I've never been like a big fan of geocaching. I mean, I've done it, but it's just another way to walk around with your media.
To stare at a screen.
You're like this. You're just staring at the screen when it's telling you you're near something, and you're not even looking at, like, the trees next to you or the stone wall or whatever. And I like letterboxing more because you have to, the clue says to look for the break in the stone wall and find the fork.
So you have to look around.
You have to see what's out there. So that's how I decided, oh, this is way more fun. This is the kind of thing we do with kids here. We write clues to move them through a class or a given landscape, and they have to be finding stuff reading the landscape. So.
Oh, yeah, that's better in my mind. That's one of the reasons I've always loved hiking since I was in Boy Scouts when I was a kid, is that you get to go out and you get to see all this stuff and scenery. And I don't care what anybody says, when you're hiking in the woods, breathing is better.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
People say, oh, that's crazy. I say, I don't know. When you're out in the woods, breathing is better. And I've never once had a tree yell at me.
Yeah.
Or complain.
I know.
Or anything. You just
better even than a dog, right?
Yeah, you're out there. They're just, they're happy to see you, and you just hike.
Yeah.
And you're getting some exercise, and you can kind of shut a whole bunch of stuff off, especially now. More than when I was a kid. But yeah, you just get to turn a whole bunch of stuff off and go with it. So.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
there's a whole book here. I hope it's here. This is like, you would love this book. Forest bathing.
Oh, that's
and there's a lot of books on forest bathing, but this guy, I think, is sort of the founder. He is Japanese, and he wrote this about a lot of research that he did on forest bathing, because it's a big thing in Japan. It's becoming a thing here, but it has a lot to do with the science of trees. There's a whole chapter on tree oils and what they found that tree oils do for healing, quick recovery, getting people out of hospitals faster, so they start diffusing pine oil and things like that. And I was thinking about it last night because I went to a talk by a neurosurgeon on how to be happy. He was talking about positive thoughts, but a lot of the results of having positive thoughts are very similar to the results of what nature can do to your brain. And he wasn't talking about tree oils, but I was thinking how we do a class, we do a bunch of classes on wreath making. We go out and we gather with people evergreens, and then they come back and make a wreath. This is after Thanksgiving. And I've been doing it for I don't know how many years here. People are like, it's like you've given them a massive pill. They are so happy.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like in there making the wreaths with pine and hemlock and laurel and their pine cones. And they are they're like high on serotonin or whatever, dopamine or something at this point and I realized, I just thought it's because they were in nature or because it's before the holidays and they're getting happy. But I think it's the tree oils. I think they are really affecting people. It's like a major aromatherapy experience to go out and cut this stuff.
I can see that, multifaceted.
Like people are so happy with Christmas trees. The oil of the tree actually is provoking chemical reactions in you, and it's all like scientifically proven. They've got all these medical papers on it. It's not just like, I think, and I love that.
Yeah, and I think that hits it on a couple of angles because just shutting down. I think going back and doing some of this more basic stuff, I think it just takes everybody.
We are so
to a lower level.
Yeah. And we are like so removed from that level.
Even
being in touch with
ourselves.
Right?
That's why fire. I always joke around that fire makes people happy, and a bunch of my friends think I'm crazy. But if you build a fire and everybody can go around campfire, it takes them down.
And what is there? There's nothing to do. We're just staring at the fire.
And just
chilling out and slowing down. And you're not usually, you're sitting there in front of the fire texting. And then people are in a circle and they're communicating maybe, they're speaking. It's absolutely true.
I think going back to basics
to some
extent, it takes people down. And that's why I think people that aren't hiking, and I know a lot of people that walk, and I said, well, you should go on the trails.
A walk in the woods is a little more. Walking is good for a lot of things, but you lack sometimes that benefit of that whole tree piece.
And I think you don't get to shut off as much.
No, and you're watching for traffic and.
I live in Balderville, and we've got a couple. We've got Lake Denison and Otter River State Parks right near us, and there's a few other state parks right in Gardner, and people are walking on the streets doing their mileage, and I'm like, there are 4 miles of trails at Dunn's Park. And you're hiking, you're walking all around town a half-mile away. You could be out there, it's softer terrain.
Well, this is an interesting thing. This is Becky, by the way.
Hi.
Our other office mate was saying yesterday, my friend, we're going walking after work. My friend will only walk, and she's a big hiker, she's doing all the 4,000 footers. She said she will only walk on the road with me. And I'm like, she used to be in our hiking group. Well, she doesn't feel comfortable going in the woods, even with 2 of them. Even here, she wants to stay to the roads. And that's what I found. That's why we have these hiking groups during the week, because it's a lot of women. There are some retired guys. They or their spouses would not want them to go into the woods alone, or even in a small group. But in a group of 25, they're like, we'll go wherever you want to go. And so we've learned that. I thought that was silly years ago when someone said to start this group, but I realized people, they say, I try to teach them map and compass, and this is where we are. They're like, we're just going with you. They can just shut down. They don't have to care about navigating or whether we're walking east. They just go where we go, and they are so relaxed and happy, and they're socializing with each other, and they don't have to look at a map even.
That's the thing, because I think in general, too, is people I tell the kids, before I get, I'm like, okay, you got to bring your own bag, and I want you to have these things in it, and they go, well, why? And it's like, well, there is, some amount of being prepared involved. Mm-hmm. I'll have more stuff than you, but, I'm bigger and I've got a bigger bag and all that. But, you got to some extent, we all have to have some accountability and some reliability. But people want to shut down more than that. They want to just follow somebody.
Yeah.
But
it's good. I'm happy that they're relaxed and at ease and. Well, they're out there, and they don't, and they'll come even if it's 10 degrees, they'll still come and follow. So that's the important thing, is that they get outside. Yeah.
Well, excellent. I would imagine we've got enough information for Freedom's Way to tune up their info. I think that's the goal.
Good.
So, and then now for my personal, I'm going to shut this down, and I'm going to get more information on some of these things, because I think that tree and leaf thing would be neat. Well, not leaves, because most of them are on the ground.
Yeah.